The mission today is to sharpen your swords and get you
ready for battle.
It's time to fine-tune your craft and make you the best in what you do. The mission is to equip you to help anyone purchase what they need. We'll share the best advice from the best in their industry. You'll be listening to a conversation you wish you had with the mentors you wish you had. Take what makes sense to you and makes you better in your career. You guys, Bruce Lee said it best.
Absorb what is useful and discard what is not.
Yeah, everybody, welcome to the Commission Mission. My name is Eric Gerace.
I'm Micah Henderson, and this episode we have a guest with us, Max Sisk.
Hey,
he is a coach and a counselor with Rise Up Kings, and he has an amazing way he helps people, way more hands-on than watching an episode. But I think we like helping the same people achieve greatness, completely different ways. Tell us a little bit of where you're at, and tell us a little bit about where you're coming from.
Okay, awesome. So basically where I'm at right now is I'm working with Rise Up Kings as a coaching consultant, which means I have conversations with guys who are really wanting to grab another gear in themselves. And one way or another, they have some sort of limiting belief, or they have some sort of struggle. And some of these guys are super successful business guys, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and they're just wanting to grab, just take it to the next level. They want to glorify God in everything they do. They want to be the best husband and father they are. Maybe they don't know how they're not showing up in those ways. Sometimes it's physically. Are they in shape to protect and provide for their family? And so those are all the foundations of kind of what we do. But whenever I talk to these guys on the phone, basically what happens is we're just having a dialogue. We're just having a conversation where my job is learning about them, learning about what they're thinking, learning about what they're not thinking, and kind of drawing a bridge to help them get from, hey, this is where you're at, this is where you want to be, and we can help you get there.
Yeah, and I think there was a previous episode that really made me think about this even more, about how other areas of your life are all connected. That I really do kind of focus on people's ability to generate income from a business, but these other how is it phrased? Like
crazy
pillars in your life that are all
there's
tied
pillars.
together.
So health, wealth, happiness, relationships, and spiritual connection. Right? That's like the 5 pillars. It's like a spokes on a wheel. And what's insane about it is none of those things are taught in schools.
Right.
You've got to find this information out there somewhere, because if one of your things is off, like you said, some of those guys are super successful, but their relationships might not be working out right. Or they don't have the relationship they want with God. Something's off. And if you ever seen a bicycle with a missing spoke, you know how that is. Drive down.
It doesn't work out.
It's not smooth.
And if you're missing more than one, you may not be moving at all.
Yep. So it's so crucial to have people like you that are focusing on these areas for people, because this is what you need to have a happy, healthy, successful life. And what's amazing about it too is it's determining your why and why you want it, and finding your big why. And then, because if you have, like a friend of mine teaches, if you have a level 10 obstacle and a level 2 why, you're never going to get through that obstacle, But if you come up with that why that nothing can stop, everything seems like a speed bump along the way. Mm-hmm. And having people like you and doing what you do is amazing to help people find that.
One aspect I wanted to focus on with you, because it's you guys have more emphasis on the spiritual aspect of it all, and I think that makes you unique. I mean, the whole process is really unique. But when it comes to the spiritual aspect, how does that differentiation help you help people? Does it provide more purpose and therefore more motivation, more drive, or what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a Christian, God needs to be the center of everything. Without Him, I can do nothing. And anything that I do won't produce the way that it should, or make the same value that it possibly could if He were doing it. And so with that being said, with working with men and having that spiritual foundation, everything that we do is based on biblical principle. It's based on men sharpening each other, basically as iron sharpens iron. And so whenever we incorporate all of that and we have the common, like the same core of beliefs and values, it makes it really easy to cut to the chase. It makes it really easy to find the why, to find the passion. And whenever you get connected to the source and you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, it gives you that if you're at a 2 and your obstacle's a 10, it helps you get to 11. And it makes the giant seem a lot smaller. And so that's, I think that's where the power comes from. That's where the foundation is. And that's how we relate. If we walked into a room together and none of us had anything in common, if we weren't all in the same field, and we were all believers, we would automatically have something to talk about.
There's some common ground there. That's huge. And then when you talking about where you're coming from, I love your whole story and where you're coming from to where you are now.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's a long story. It's a life story, but in just a couple of minutes, basically where I come from, I came from a family. My dad was in the military. So he was gone a lot, but he provided for my family well. We had everything we needed, a lot of what we wanted, but it wasn't a glamorous upbringing. So we grew up well. I have 2 younger sisters, and my mom and dad, they did good. Once I was a teenager, we actually moved down to Panama City, Florida, so that he could work at the naval base as a dive instructor. And during that process, I was just becoming a teenager, my first year of high school, and so
in Panama City, no less.
Yeah, so I don't need to go too into detail, but as you can imagine, gasoline and perfume just kind of took over my life, and I went from being involved in all the the programs and having a high GPA to barely graduating. Like barely graduating. By the time I finished high school, I had dabbled in or been addicted to every substance that I could get my hands on. From I don't know how descriptive I can be here,
they're all we're all adults here.
We're all adults here.
okay,
This is
okay.
not for kids.
But everything.
So between partying, drinking, just living that life, like my I'm sorry, I got a little ahead of myself. My parents got a divorce whenever I was 16. So I just started driving, and the first time I saw my dad cry, he came to me in the driveway when I came home, and he was drinking, and he was crying, and he said, "Your mom and I are getting a divorce. Sum it up. Will you take me to the gas station to get more beer?" And so I had some really impactful lies come into my heart at that time, where I learned love isn't real. It doesn't last. When real men cry and they hurt, they medicate. And so to me, that kind of sent me on a downward spiral and a snowball to say, well, what's the point? I'm going to work at McDonald's forever and just do whatever I want in every moment. Long story short, I ended up being a heroin addict, going to the methadone clinic in the morning, the pawn shop in the afternoon, selling things, and then a cycle there, so it was very defeating every single day. And I was just hopeless, man. I was suicidal. My little sister actually committed suicide in addiction when she was 19 years old. Yeah, so there was a lot of pain there. So divorce, suicide, dysfunction, sexual dysfunction, drug and alcohol addiction, just godlessness in my life and in my family. And basically, one day I was watching a lot of different circumstances kind of added up and pointed me towards God. But I ended up getting plugged into a program through some law enforcement that was showing me a lot of grace. So they ended up actually plugging me in with a group of Christian men that specialized in helping men in addiction. And so they were like, does the name Jesus Christ offend you? And I was like, well, there's not a whole lot else that really offends me at this point. I'm going to die. And so they're like, okay, are you willing to do whatever it takes? And through that process, they sold me on something they weren't selling per se, So they asked me all the questions to find out, was I serious? Did I really want what I was saying I wanted? Was I willing to do what it takes? And they got a lot of tie downs in those conversations.
And what they did was, like, you didn't know what you wanted. They, through some questions, helped you find what you needed and wanted.
Absolutely.
And that is key in any sales, no matter what you're in, is you don't have to sell your client on something. You have to help and ask the right questions to help them discover what they need and then offer your solution to that problem.
And the reason why I liked your story and wanted to bring it up here is that, there's a lot of people that are making a decision to go from a life that does not make them happy, a life of the typical 9 to 5. They're hoping they get that 50-cent raise next year, to taking their life into their own hands and stepping out, being bold, and saying, I'm going to make my reality what I want. What I don't want is, if they're coming from even a piece of a similar background as you, developing that limiting belief that they can't, or that if anybody finds out about their past, their coworkers, their clients, that the jig is up, that everybody knows that that's who they are. And that's why I love how you own it. You own your past, and so be it. And from my perspective, and I think a lot of people's perspective, it's more about results than it is anything that you did in your past. So don't get hung up on that. Just keep on progressing. Getting sharper at what you do.
Absolutely. And so whenever I went to that program, it was Evans Training Center. They're at evanstc.org, and they're trying to just build. Whenever I went through there, they had 8 beds. Now they're working on building to have 25 beds so they can serve more people.
It's like a recovery center.
Yeah, it's men's drug and alcohol addiction. It's an 8-month in residence program. You got to be dying. You got to know that you're going to die if you don't do something to get into a program like that. And what they do is, they pour into you completely. And through that process, through going through that and really just kind of reevaluating and being shown and told, like, if you don't rat on yourself, you will become the old you again. And so, with the power of the testimony, there's also accountability built into that. And so those beliefs that might pull me back into doing things that I used to do, not only can I tell on myself and not go there again because I have people around me, but it can also help other people see the freedom in, oh, wow, he made a decision. And that it ties right into the commission lifestyle. So even just yesterday, I had a conversation with a young man who was considering enrolling in the sales training program that I enrolled in, that taught me the skills that I'm now using to produce more income, get to serve in a way that I really feel called to do, that I'm in total alignment with, and my life is improving in every way because of it. But it took a gigantic leap of faith. And for me, the financial investment to learn those things was something that I didn't have the money in the bank for that.
I don't know if you've seen the Steve Harvey motivation that he did in between one of the recordings of his shows, where he talks about going to the edge of a cliff, and that you've got to jump. And the first time you jump, you might fall and scratch and get scraped up. It's like, imagine a baby bird learning how to fly, but you've got to jump. And then one of those times when you jump, those wings will sprout and you will soar. But you've got to jump. You've got to jump. You've got to take that step. You've got to do faith without works is dead, right? So you've got to take those steps and those action steps, and having a group of people, that a support system is key for that. Because one of the things too, we've been always trained and taught that strength is power, is it, and so especially as men, you can't show any vulnerability or anything like that. That's pure weakness. But it's the opposite, where your strength and your power really comes from your vulnerability. And especially going through a treatment program like that, where you can share your struggles, what's going through, like ratting on yourself, whatever how you slipped up, how other people can learn from those breadcrumbs that you leave behind. Like John England always says, how do you bake a world-class cake? You don't have to go and train for 30 years to become a world-class chef to do it. You just have to follow that world-class chef recipe exactly. Yep. And take those steps. And that's what it sounds to me like your treatment center is doing, is laying down those breadcrumbs.
So you made it through the treatment, the recovery center, and you came out a happier, healthier you. what led you to where you are now? What made you decide that you wanted to help people?
Because
And that's where you find fulfillment through serving.
Right. And so, yeah, I went through that process, and after some time, I moved on from being there. Went through some training there after I graduated the program, and then ended up meeting my wife and moving back to Florida to be close to my son. And I worked. I tried starting a few businesses, and started building some momentum while I was working as a maintenance tech. So I took the skills I learned in the program, changed from being a restaurant employee, and started a new industry. Did well. I was getting significant raises every year because I was just showing up the way that they showed me to show up. Like be intentional, be on time, do everything as if the Lord's watching you. And granted, fall short a lot of times during that period, but having that basic foundation of thought and mentality is what got me to a place where I realized, okay, I'm getting close to the ceiling here. Like, you can get a couple raises and be like, am I even? So for me, whenever I went and wanted to invest in a sales training, I didn't even know it was what I wanted. And that, that in and of itself, that I clicked on a link, went to an ad, somebody called me right away, started asking me questions. Why did this seem interesting to you? And then through that process, they asked me these questions that I hadn't really asked myself. And I realized I've got my ladder propped up on a building I don't even want to get to the top of. What is that going to cost me in the long run if I stay there? Mm-hmm. And so that right there, that they sold sales training through that methodology. They used that methodology on me. They sold me on it. And because they were so effective at doing that, I was like, hey, I want what they have. If there is a light at the end of this tunnel, if this 10, 20, 30K a month potential income is real, I want a piece of that for my family so that I can have a better life and do something that I actually love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to talk about sales training a little bit. I want to talk about the Rise Up Kings programs. That's where I'm kind of leading with this. But if someone is watching right now that isn't that CEO, that isn't that successful entrepreneur already, that they're just getting their ball rolling, some sales tips that helped you get from committing to that sales training to where you are now. I noticed that in our conversation, it was a kind of a natural transition of just inquisitive, asking the right questions, and because it's what you do, it's kind of a natural progression. I find the same thing where they're going to mention something that makes me think of something that I do, and it's just natural when you do something enough. In fact, it's my mind is always rolling in that way. It's kind of hard for me to turn it off. It's kind of hard for me to unplug when I have to be very intentional when I'm with the kids. I'm with those kids, even though I want to check that email and call that person back. When I'm on vacation, I want to follow up on that application to make sure everything's moving along there. Or even if I'm, coming from who I am, I've always kind of been a friendly, outgoing person that when I'm out to eat with the family, not to, strike up a conversation with the table next to me and crack a joke.
Right.
Do you ever find it hard to unplug and to not be in the mindset of what you do for a living?
Yes and no, because I would say yes because I'm driven, and like going from like a W-2 employee mindset to a 1099 and coaching and commission and working that way, it's made it harder to make those boundaries whenever I have this fear of not providing. So like I have to keep that in check. I have to be intentional about the way I spend my time while I'm doing what I'm doing. And I want to make sure that what I am doing has a purpose and that I'm learning how to do it as effectively as possible. So, in doing that, like I'm trying to learn constantly. I'm trying to realize that I don't have all the answers, that there's a best practice out there and that I'm not it, and apply those things. On the flip side of that coin, I've learned also that the sales skills and the methods that I've learned are much more than sales. It's not about just getting somebody to sign up so that you can collect your piece of the pie. The whole point is, if you have something to offer somebody that's genuinely going to benefit them, how much harder are you going to try and have that conversation? How much harder are you going to dig into asking them the questions that they need to answer? How much more willing to put yourself on the line and say, hey, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but is what I'm hearing you say this, and is that rooted in
paraphrasing kind of?
So is that rooted in a fear? Do you know where that comes from? And just kind of testing the waters with somebody.
Well, one of the ways I deal with work-life balance, so I used to do that too. Like at first I was a slave to my calendar. Then I went, okay, no calendar. And then I was like slacking and missing appointments sometimes, or double booking stuff and creating chaos. And so then I decided that I'm going to make my calendar a slave to me, right? So I could pre-book times and only book appointments. But aside from doing that, what really was key for me was realizing now is it. There is no past, and they're imaginary things, right? Yes, we experience it, and it led us to be here, but really the only thing real and true is right now. And so that takes away time pressure when you only have now, because you can be now with your kids for that few moments, whatever you have going on, because it's now, and then that'll be next, but when I'm doing that, that'll be that. And as you start to do that, you start to train the people around you of they get their time, but they know to give you other time for other things too. So you're starting, because we teach and train everybody around us how to be. And if we're feeling that pressure of oh, I've got to create this income, I've got to support, I've got to make this bill, I've got to do whatever, that's in us. We create that. And so you can let that go by, like you said, turning everything over to God. God, you are my source. So now your only job is tuning up to that and being grateful for all the things that he's giving you. And it's not your responsibility to whether you have this conversation with this person or you don't have to do any of that, because it will show up at the right time if you believe that. And whatever you believe to be true is true for you. So if you don't have that belief and you believe that and experience something else, that's because of that belief is why you experience that way. And so with your program, you can remove those limiting beliefs that we don't even, a lot of times, don't even know we have. It takes a group of people to help point them out in you, and you got to hear it. Because a lot of times we defend against it and we fight. That's kind of, and I get angry, right?
Kind of part of your
identity. The truth will set you free, but it'll really piss you off first.
Well, yeah, but if you think about, that your personality is based off of this belief, and your whole identity is wrapped around it. And when someone's telling you, you're wrong or that doesn't make sense.
Well, that's what they hear. You can say that. You can tell someone they could let that go, and they're hearing I'm wrong, because they built their whole life around that belief. And so now you're taking and you're swiping out their foundation, even though that foundation was built on sand and some pebbles. You're wiping out their foundation, and to them, their whole world is crumbling down.
Scary, right?
And it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be there to feel, like you said, we feel each other just pour in, and you just pour in the truth. Because the truth never changes, right? So you can just keep pouring in the truth to them until they find their own truth and belief in strength in that. And they can borrow your faith for a while, right? Because they might not have any faith or belief in anything. But if you can stand strong in something and pour into somebody, then they can borrow your faith. It's kind of like this. We were talking on the last episode about being a jet ski tour guide, where I had to start thinking for my clients, right? Because if I gave them a choice or left it up to them, they always didn't go the way I wanted them to. But when I remove those and let them rely on me as the expert, then they followed me everywhere I went, and it was amazing. But so it's the ability to recognize that people's BS is our last kind of, it's their belief system, right?
Yeah.
And so
I was going a different direction.
Yeah. But when you recognize people's belief systems, you can help guide them without telling them that belief system's wrong. You can be okay with them. But one of the most awesome pieces of advice I got from a gentleman named O'Shea Thomas, Poet O'Shea, is he said, Eric, you need to learn how to let people be wrong. Because for me, there was a right answer, right? And so I was always trying to guide them to get to the right answer. No, just let them have it and let them find the right answer on their own. But if I just say, hey, this is what it's here, if you want this and you have questions, kind of, and let them open their eyes to it, but you don't have to make the decision for them, or you don't have to force them in. You don't have to con them into something or trick them into a sale. You know?
That was something that was really good with your the way you ask questions, right? And that not only is a purpose of asking a question to get some information, but also getting people to think about something that they hadn't thought about before, has never even been on their radar. And then, once it's brought up, really gets their gears thinking about a particular area, and a particular area that you want them to think. So, going back to like sales training, and somebody who may just be kind of getting started or want to get to the next level in sales or in business, is the importance of asking great questions and leading somebody to where they want, and not to force them, because you have to allow them to be wrong, but you also want them to eventually come back to you willingly instead of resistant. So asking those great questions, and maybe, do you already have some questions kind of all geared up? Because you have to naturally, because you've been doing it a little while. You've done it at least once, so you have an idea of the area that you want to ask, or what that next question is going to be. Or do you just completely freestyle it and?
That's a great question, because if you go into everything canned, they're going to feel that
you're not genuine. You're not authentic.
You're not sincere.
No one likes that.
They're scripted. You might as well be calling from some other country with a teleprompter, and everybody just wants to hang up.
But the flip side of that coin is you can run a lot farther and a lot faster on a track that's already been laid, or a path that's already been ran, compared to just running through the woods that's completely wild.
Exactly.
So
there's definitely a balance there.
Right.
So I'm not going to read a script word for word. Right. Whenever I get into a call with somebody, I'm going to introduce myself. The goal is, hey, this is me. This is who I am. This is why I'm here, and then build a small rapport there.
I think that's key, because Kirk McDowell, he taught me, he has a visionary program. He does a 12-week intensive world-class leadership course. And one of the things that I learned through going through that course was the acronym WAIT. So when you're talking, you just say wait, and or before you talk, it's wait, and it's why am I talking, and why aren't I talking? Right. So when you ask yourself that question and get clarity on that, you can do it in an instant. It doesn't have to be pre-planned and everything. Are you adding value to what you're say, or are you just flapping your gums hoping that you're going to lead them to a sale and commission breath kind of thing? Right. So with that simple practice of wait, and so what happens is, and Kurt is beautiful at this, is in sales, he said, I just had to learn how to be uncomfortable longer than my client was comfortable being uncomfortable. And if I could outlast their discomfort, they always came back to me. And so wait was a tool that he used. And so there would be points, where he just would wait for their response.
But when he did talk, it was much more intentional.
It was much more intentional, because when you do talk, now, why am I talking? You're not just rattling your brains. And so here's what's a beauty about God and how our brains work, is that the universe, if you ask a question, it's going to give you the answer all the time. It will give it, whether you're tuned into it or not. The answer is coming. So when you start asking your subconscious, it goes back to limiting beliefs. Why am I talking right now? Or why aren't I talking right now? Your subconscious is going to go look for those answers, right? And so you're tuning yourself up to the conversation, rather than blah, 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 alligator, just nonstop diarrhea at the mouth, wearing your client's ears out. So,
that's good. So how I want to make sure that people are able to find you, that I want people to be able to learn about the program, with your permission, we're able to put a link or a contact information. I would love to put a link of that video that we had watched.
The trailer earlier to Rise Up Kings.
Yes.
Come on.
Okay, so that got
me hyped up.
That particular video was of the refinery event that I went through last week. And so like that one, our video.
Were you the guy getting sprayed in the face with the hose, or were you the guy holding the hose?
No. I went through the experience.
Okay.
So it was a great experience for me to assess and learn.
Yeah.
Like, what do we do exactly? How do we do it? Because I could talk about it with the finite understanding I had before. But whenever and know that like, hey, I'm helping somebody because I believe in what we do. I've seen enough fruit.
Yeah.
But now that I've gone
Firsthand.
through it, I have this tangible, because a man with an experience will never be at the mercy of a man with an argument.
Oh, wow.
So I've had an experience. Deep. Yeah. So I didn't come up with that. So I had this experience that now I know that God is absolutely 100 present and behind what's happening there. And I know that it's so much more than physical, and it's so much more than business, because the skilled questions that get asked and that I lean towards in those conversations, like we were talking about earlier, is, yeah, we're talking about business. What's holding you back in your business? How is that affecting your family? Mm-hmm. How does your wife look whenever she says that to you? How do you feel whenever your wife is telling you that you're dropping the ball?
A lot of emotions there.
Yeah. And so like, sometimes I get on the phone with a guy who's just broken and just completely tired of that. And I know that if he goes and does this wholeheartedly and jumps all in, kind of like we have to do to take the leap and jump into a commission-based.
Really commit.
Yeah, you have to commit. And whenever they do that, and I know that if they do that, it's going to be worth it. So for me, knowing what I know, it's easy, kind of like the jet ski.
Well, it was
guy.
usually some emotional event that formed the limiting belief in the first place.
Right.
So you have to have something powerful and
Right.
the truth to behind it to replace that limiting belief. There's science behind it too, even.
But if you sell a
Aside that it looks
product,
amazingly fun, there's some actually true science behind.
But if you sell a product or service that you really believe in, it's so much easier, and people feel that genuine excitement for what you believe in. Max, I really appreciate you coming out today, and I want to be able to connect anybody with you and Rise Up Kings. Give us the contact information to be able to put on the website that'll show up right beneath the episode.
Okay.
And people will know how to take it the next step. And I really hope to be able to put that trailer on there, because a picture's worth 1,000 words. That video is worth 1,000,000.
Absolutely, man. So you could check out Rise Up Kings at go.riseupkings.com. Make sure to, there's a lot of stuff there. The refinery event is it's really the tip of the iceberg of everything we do. We have marriage retreats, we have Rise Up Queens, we have advanced leadership training courses, we have 12-month masterminds. We've got a lot of stuff going on, and the goal is to help everybody grow and not just fall off. Like the impact in the 3-day event is there, but we want to sustain that.
And the accountability that goes even further after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot there, man. And we've got some other offers that work for people that are, for whatever reason they can't afford to go.
Don't have the time to go. Got a physical limitation or whatever the case may be, where we can actually connect like we do in a mastermind via Zoom with a group of guys that are trying to grow in their faith, family, fitness, and finance, and really just pursue. Those are our 4 pillars.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? We want to pursue that. We want to get together with the body, and we want to get together and with business and life coaching, tracking and accountability, and community. And those things are the way that we execute the results that we're trying to get, so that we can make, as men and leaders of our homes, our businesses, our sphere of influence, the largest impact we can. And so that's what Skylar and the Rise Up Kings vision is about, is if we can change a man, change the world. That's a quote from Skylar. And that we can, I felt that. Whenever I went there, I came home different. So I'm hoping that my wife sees it. I think she does. And I'm hoping that the people that I talk to on the phone see it. I'm hoping that people that knew my past and have seen this transformation say, wait, if this God is real, then I can see that he's not
success
done with
leaves
Max
clues. That's the breadcrumbs you're leaving behind, and people are seeing it, because it's like Roger Maris or Bannister that ran the 4-minute mile. It was physically impossible until they saw him do it, and now like 20,000 people have done that since.
Right.
But it takes someone to see, and so you are for someone that was in your shoes when you started out. seeing you.
Living proof.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you're their breadcrumbs. You're their world-class chef, teaching them how to make that world-class cake, you know.
Max, thanks for coming out. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for, helping anybody get a little bit better, because iron sharpens iron. Everybody's here to get better one way or another. If you need to take that level 1, 2, 5 steps more, you got to do what you got to do to get to where you want. And we're going to have the contact information if you want to.
Go.riseupkings.com.
Yeah, and one more thing, I want to definitely shout out to the sales training company that I went through. It's called Remote Closing Academy. Cole Gordon is a world-class trainer, coach. His team, amazing.
There's some breadcrumbs, guys. Pick them up.
Yeah, seriously. Like if you want to grow, you can't do it alone. And if you want to get better at something, you absolutely have to be willing to sacrifice whatever it is for you,
including comfort,
to go and seek out somebody who's been there before you, and they're gonna help trim the fat.
Yeah.
They help you do the best thing the fastest way possible.
And the beauty of practicing discomfort is it becomes less discomforting. So actually, you can be comfortable being discomforting.
Definitely. And that's where growth happens.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
So. All right, guys. Awesome. Well, let's get uncomfortable, grow a little bit, get better at what you do every day. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to like and subscribe.
See you next time. Guys, if I've said it before, I'll say it again, that everything's connected one way or another. You can't be awesome in one thing and let everything in your life slide. You're not going to be happy there. So I really want you to think, while you are sharpening your sword, getting ready for battle, and going into a sales meeting or just starting your day, that there's other things that are important to you. There's other things to be made a priority, and the whole program that Max was talking about emphasizes that to a whole nother level.
Yeah, it's like the fact that we realize that most of the time, the only thing that we're fighting for is our smallness, right? So we will have all these great big dreams, but we always tell why we don't have them. We always tell, and that is poison. That's pushing your dream away by saying why you don't have it.
Sounds like
and so to have people like Max and his group to remove limiting beliefs, to help people discover the truth, that we are these amazing light beings created in the likeness of God, and that Jesus even said it, we can do all the miracles he did and greater. It's just, but we let that go. And so to have people like you to remind us to fight for our greatness and stand up for our greatness and to find this unity and connection, and sales is all about relationships and building those relationships, I think is just key, because it's not about convincing someone to buy something. It's forming a relationship with them, serving them in the best way that you can, and solving a problem.
Yeah,
solving a pain.
So, solving that problem and forming those relationships. A big takeaway are those questions, and don't just try to make it up as you go along every single day. There's going to be something, whether it's your experience or whether it's a sales training or a mentor, that give you a track to run on. You can run a lot further, a lot faster on that track. Get those questions that really not only give you the information you need to develop the right service or product that somebody needs to accomplish that goal, but also gets their gears rolling of, wow, I never thought about that before. Maybe I do not only need what I came to you to talk to about, but maybe I need another feature to that service or product that serves another purpose I hadn't even thought about before I talked to you, the professional.
And vulnerability is power. They're going to feel your heart before they believe your script, and so
be genuine, be authentic.
Yes.
Keep getting better and keep tuning in. We're going to see you guys next time on the Commission Mission.
Thank you all.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching this episode of the Commission Mission. I hope you got a lot out of it. We need you guys to like, follow, subscribe, whatever that action is for the platform that you're watching it on, and please leave a review. That's a great way of giving us a compliment.
And if you're listening to this show and you're interested in working with a great team in either the financial industry or real estate, Mike and I have opportunities available for people to join our team. You can find us at livingthatcommissionlife.com and go to the Join Us tab.
Highland Finance, helping you prepare for life. The profit your business brings in should go to you, not accidents, injuries, and hurricanes. Do a policy review on your general liability and workers' comp today. Our proven track record helps our clients prepare for life. Call 850-359-5989. Highland Finance.